Welcome to Android Dialogues, where we have bite-sized conversations with people in the Android community. I'm Huyen and I'm speaking with
Joaquim Verges. I know it's really hard to say. That's what she made me say it.
It's kind of, I wanted you to say it perfectly. So I'm currently in San Francisco, and both of us are attending KotlinConf this week.
That's right.
Joaquim, where are you based, and how did you get started in Android?
So I'm actually based here in the Bay Area, in Oakland at the moment, but I work in San Francisco, and I moved here 4.5 years ago. I was already doing Android at the time, and how I started on Android was actually just on my own. I was a web developer first, doing horrible PHP and just Java enterprise stuff. And I wanted to, tinker with my brand new Android device. That was a Galaxy i7500.
Wow.
Super sexy name. And I just wanted to play with it, and I started getting into it, looking on forums and stuff how to do it. Made a really bad app, another really bad app, and then my third one was actually pretty decent, and put it out on the internet, and it just started.
I think one you're talking about is Falcon. Was your
actually
Twitter client?
Yeah, so that was my second successful one. There's actually one before that was a bit less successful, but that's actually what got me my first Android job. Is that app? It was a Google Reader client.
Google
so
Reader.
RSS client for news. And it had a really good widget, which was pretty rare at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how it kind of came in.
And where do you work now?
So right now I work at Twitch. It's been 8 months roughly. I'm the Android lead at Twitch at the moment.
So if anyone's actually ever come to my talks, I kind of talk about the fact that I'm a huge Dota 2 fan, which is a game that is pretty prevalent in esports. And I basically, at my house, we have Twitch on all the time. So I'm a huge fan. I was already a big fan of Joaquim before, but now I get my two fandoms together. Is there anything exciting at Twitch that you're working on that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, there's this new feature that just got announced at TwitchCon last week, which is called Twitch Extensions. And it's a really, really exciting project. It's basically enabling any developer to make mini apps that run on top of the video player or side by side. And it's anything you can think of, and you get interaction from the viewers that basically get shared to all the people who are viewing, and also the streamer can do interactions for all their viewers. So there's really cool projects for specific games. So one of the most famous one right now is this Hearthstone deck viewer.
Yeah.
So you can see the streamer's deck in real time, hover every card, see all the details. And I'm pretty sure there's already a Dota 2 one to see the current equipment, all the stats that you don't see on the screen. And even more lifetime stats of the streamer, what's his best hero, all this kind of stuff.
That's so cool.
There's so many things that you can do with extensions, and it's basically a mini app store for Twitch. And that's gonna run on web and mobile. It's a big project, and I'm really, really excited for it.
So if you are a streaming fan and you're a big Twitch watcher like me, and you're a developer like us, it might be something really cool to check out. That's awesome. So I guess I wanted to ask you more about your personal projects, because obviously you have a lot of experience making personal projects kind of go to the next level. What are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm exploring something a little bit different. I've been inspired by all the AR demos that are out there. Particularly, ARKit really started kind of the whole movement. And ARCore, the Android version, came out pretty recently, so I was really excited about it. And started playing with it, and I just started maybe 3 weeks ago, roughly. And I have this little idea for a kind of a virtual pet app in AR that basically you have to actually take him outside and move the phone with you in order to interact and like make the pet evolve and play with him, etc. So you can imagine like, I don't know, this sounds like maybe a terrible idea, but like you can actually take your virtual dog for a walk outside and, you know, interactions happen, you can play with him, maybe that's how it grows, etc., etc. And so I got a little proof of concept, like a very basic app that is already pretty fun. Google had a AR SDK already for years, Tango.
Right, yeah.
And Tango is actually way more powerful than ARKit. It has more features, but it uses a special hardware to take advantage of all the features. That's why it hasn't like taken off as much.
Yeah.
There is a couple of Tango powered phones out there built by Lenovo. And what they have is basically they have a depth sensor enabled camera, which basically has a IR blaster to like get the lights and the depth differences with like a really like accurate sensor. Apart from the depth sensing and a couple other features, the base concepts, which is motion tracking, that's just detecting where the phone is compared to the world, like its position, its tilting, etc. There is some depth sensing that you can do without the hardware, just with two cameras.
Right, so it's using like the difference in like the
exactly, which is basically what our eyes are doing to figure out like how deep things are. And so that's what ARCore does. It's basically a subset of Tango. So it has the motion tracking with a gyroscope and like whatever sensor it can use on like a normal device, and it uses depth sensing with cameras that can, which they just require the double camera thing. And I think on the Pixel, what they do is they have already all these tech for HDR technologies, which basically take multiple pictures. I am not 100% sure, but I think that's what they do to basically do the lightweight depth. It works decently well. It's only supported on a few devices right now. Actually, when I started this little pet project, I was doing it on my Pixel 1. And I was a little disappointed. There's a sample app that you can check out that does a very simple like motion tracking with plane detection. So basically just showing where the surfaces are, so you can put objects on top of it, and it will anchor it to this plane, so it doesn't move when you move the camera. It knows to stay in place. But with the Pixel 1, I found that even the sample app was really flaky when it comes to detecting those planes, and without the plane detection, basically you couldn't do anything because you needed the plane first in order to put the objects on it. So in the sample case, it's a little bug droid that you can put on the plane. And when I tried it, I was like, the sample, it has to work really well, right? But I actually found so many times where it just didn't work for me.
It's like a hardware limitation,
I think it's just that the hardware is just this year catching up enough to do this kind of like really processing intense operations. That said, though, it still worked in good conditions, so good lighting, visible edges, because that's what it looks for to detect planes. It looks for edges.
So like a messy room would be a little bit difficult.
Exactly. Even outdoors with like some big reflections or something like that, it has a really hard time. But I recently got the Pixel 2, and I heard in the when they announced it that they did something in the latest processor that they have, the Snapdragon, I think it's 835 or something like that, has some like improvements for all this like image processing and all this stuff that ARCore uses. And it's like day and night between the Pixel 1 and Pixel 2 how fast it's able to like detect all the edges, lay out the plane, and it was so now finally I'm excited again, because before that I was like, well, that works, but you need like a really perfect environment. Now it's like much more robust and it works in a lot of different places.
So definitely something that probably would be able to kind of make it easier to develop and, as you said, more robust and actually kind of a viable experience.
Yeah.
So when you're programming, what does it look like? Do you get the planes and like the edges somewhere, and then it's up to you to draw the model and make it interact?
So the way it works is you initiate the session, it creates everything, starts the camera, and starts the detection. Or, well, you tell it to like start detecting. And the things it gives you is something called point clouds, which is basically all the features that like edges, lines, kind of darker, lighter areas. And so you can do stuff with that if you want. But the interesting thing, it also gives you planes. So like a list of planes, which uses those point clouds to kind of like figure out where the planes should be. So then you get a nice like Java object that's a plane. And from there, you have everything you need to draw something in a 3D space, because the plane, you have all the coordinates, the offset that you need to put your object into. And from there, when you place an object on the plane, they advise that you attach it via this object called an anchor. And the anchor, what it does is basically, so you attach it to the plane, and then from there, it kind of interacts with the motion tracking, which is basically the movement of the device, to know by how much it needs to offset itself to look like it stays in the same position.
That's really cool. And that's all done for you, so you don't have to do like this crazy amount of math or like calculations. It's all just using that anchor as like a
and it's all like nice Java objects. It's really usable.
Wow.
The problem is that from there, that's what you get, but that doesn't show anything on the screen. Like once you want to do anything interesting, you basically need to start tinkering with OpenGL if you're in Java to like load a model, position it in the right place, and then if you want to move it and all that, you have all the information because you have the coordinates and everything you need, but you need to do that yourself in OpenGL if you're doing the Java version. I actually started with that at the beginning, but I'm not like an expert in OpenGL, and honestly, like just looking at the sample, it's a lot of code just to do something very simple in 3D with OpenGL. I really wish there was like, an official framework on top of OpenGL that would make things a bit easier. But there is a big competitor in that space, and that's Unity. And Tango and ARCore support Unity, so they have a SDK for Unity or a plugin. And when I switched to Unity, things were actually like way easier because you get the same basically objects. You get planes, you get anchors, you get those point clouds, and from there, you're already in the Unity kind of system, and it's really easy to basically just keep those around and then position all your object compared to that plane. And then from there, it's basically just doing any 3D game, which with Unity, they made it really easy, actually.
So is it like a full like development environment where you get kind of like a full IDE where you can like I guess create your game, or is it so it's much more like I guess visual? Is that
it's much more visual. You get a lot of kind of editor things. So for example, in my app, I have a little 3D model of a dog, and it can stay idle, it can walk, or it can do different kind of movements, and all that is basically just boxes and arrows to boxes to tell which conditions triggers which animation. I love that system. Like that makes it so much easier than having to write everything by hand.
People don't have to worry about learning like a whole nother language or a whole nother platform.
There is some scripting that you have to do still, and that's in C#, which is okay. If you're a Java developer, you shouldn't be too unfamiliar with it. The scripting is simplified, and I honestly picked it up in like maybe a month or two, doing a couple tutorials and then just attacking straight into ARCore and just like banging my head until I get what I wanted on screen to happen, and like that's how you learn, right?
So let's take a second and actually let Joaquim show us his cool little doggy walking
Yeah,
app.
definitely.
So
This is a little video that I did this morning in my house. There you go. And so it's basically once the plane detection happens, which on the Pixel 2 happens in like maybe a couple seconds, you start seeing a little dog walking around next to you, and it starts peeing everywhere because I never had a dog, and I wanted to like simulate what it would take to actually have to take the dog out walking every couple of days. So that's where the idea came from. And so this is just in my house, taking my dog out on the garden.
Stopping at the door. Oh, well,
and it's, yeah, that's what it does when I only knows how to pee and to walk. I'm hoping to teaching lots of new things. So here it's interesting. You see that the plane continue kind of on the same level.
Right, from the deck to your like,
that's something that's kind of hard, but I think ARCore can do this. So basically, we detect two different planes here, and I have to basically do the logic to like switch my model from one plane to another.
Yeah.
And that's it. So basically, you just move your camera around, and it follows you everywhere, and that's how you walk him.
That's really cool. So what did you actually code? Like, what is it that you did yourself?
So the sample is plane detection, and you tap somewhere to show a bug druid and it stays static there. I just took that sample and I didn't want the visualization of the planes because that kind of kills the magic.
Right.
And instead of the bug droid, I found like this dog models online, which are really cute. It has a bunch of animations in it. And instead of doing appear on tap, I made it so that as soon as it detects a plane, it shows up the model on the right plane. And then it follows the center point of the camera.
Oh.
So I just basically, it's called a raycast in Unity. It's a ray from the center of the camera to the plane, and that's where the direction, the desired position is saved, and the dog just has a like kind of a delayed movement to get to that position. And from there it follows you. So if you like go really fast, you will see it run faster. If you stop, it will stop. And there's like, I don't know, lots of little ideas that I could do. You could throw balls at him. He could go fetch it for you. You could feed him, you know, lots of little things. And it was just like a way for me to learn too. So it was.
Oh, that is good. So amazing. And it sounds like it's not, you know, I feel like sometimes like with things like AR, it feels intimidating, you know, like, oh my gosh, well, I have to learn OpenGL. Oh my gosh, well, I have to learn all these things. But it sounds like it's not, it's pretty accessible for developers.
So it's accessible if you're doing Unity because Unity has pretty established, and like there's so many tutorials and everything. And the ARCore /Tango plugin for Unity is like pretty good. It feels almost more advanced than the Java one.
Interesting, yeah.
I feel like it's probably because the Tango guys like thought that this would work really well for games and like all these 3D apps, and Unity was the obvious choice to support because it's so popular. The Java side, again, like all the plane detection, all that, the SDK, like the APIs are really clean, like it's easy to use. It's just the actual game part that's really hard. So
doing everything yourself in OpenGL.
So there's like pros and cons on both sides, because Unity is great to make a simple game or like 3D kind of apps, but the integration with Android, that's where it starts getting difficult, right? You basically get a full screen experience, and you can't really, you know, basically have UI around it, for example, or just like embedded in your app.
Makes sense.
Which I think for AR apps, since like they're basically like camera features,
right?
Think like Snapchat or something. Totally, we should be able to embed it in our apps, and I think that's how AR is really gonna take off. Is if more and more apps have AR features in them rather than just having like pure AR apps that don't have any normal app features, if you know what I mean.
No, yeah. Makes sense.
So my ideal thing, actually, because I'm biased because I'm experienced on Android. I made apps for years. I wish I could just write a normal app and just have like a container in my view hierarchy, basically, that runs my Unity programs. That would be like the ideal for me. And I need to look, because I know you can export your project into Android Studio, and it gives you like somewhat readable code. There's a lot of, it goes into native really quickly, right? Because it's all done in native. Right. But I wonder if I can somehow like hack it up so that I can have my own UI around it.
That would be interesting, yeah. So you get the best of both worlds.
Exactly. The other thing I'm really interested in is where I think AR is really going to take off as well, is if you combine it with all the new stuff in computer vision and all the cool machine learning stuff that they showed off at I/O actually. So right now, actually, there are really cool samples that you can look at for TensorFlow that run on Android, and they do crazy stuff like detecting people and features, or like this is a table, this is a person, etc. And like I would love to integrate that in my app so that my little pet, I can just point to someone and kind of like it highlights this person, and this is an interactive thing that I can act on. So I could like maybe say like, hey, go like, lick his face or something.
Oh yeah, so it would be able to detect the person's face, and they can interact with the environment in a more complex way.
Or maybe detects a chair or something, and I don't know, there's also a lot of voice recognition stuff, so I could say like, go on the chair. Yeah. And, all this stuff kind of comes in together.
Right. So it recognizes the command, recognizes the chair in like the environment, and then goes, oh man, there would be like...
That's actually like my base idea, is I want to kind of merge these three things together. Voice recognition, because you always tell a dog what to do. You don't like touch something and it goes there, right? So I want you to say like, go here, or go on the table, or go to this person, and it will do it. So that's voice recognition, and there's TensorFlow samples for that too. That works really well. So all the pieces are there. It feels like they're very like independent right now. Right. So with Unity, how would I integrate with any TensorFlow things that process the images, right? So like that's why I wish I could do it all in Java, because in Java I have access to all this other stuff. Right. Yeah. And I can do my own UI. I can do like really easily like a setting screen that's just Android. Like I don't really want to have to do it in Unity, and like it feels like there's so much potential there, but because it's like different teams, different tech, it's kind of hard to put it all together in like a developer-friendly way right now.
Well, I guess we're making a call now there. If anybody who on the ARCore team and the mobile vision team and all the other like great APIs team, if y'all can get together, at least one of us has like some really great ideas for some really cool things of bringing all the things together. Well, thank you so much, Joaquim.
You're very welcome.
If people wanted to find you on the internet, how can they do that?
So I'm pretty active on Twitter. I'm a Twitter guy. So my handle is JoeNRV, JoeNRV. Or type Joaquim. I'm like up there on the list apparently. And yeah, that's probably the best way to find me. I'm pretty active there. Mention me and I'll hella back.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today, Joaquim.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was awesome. I've wanted to get Joaquim on the channel for a long time, and now I got him.
Woo!
So it's like you're like my Pokemon, like that Pokemon I wanted to catch. So they call back to the AR game. So anyway,
nice.
But anyway, thank y'all for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.